you, Mr. Olawole, for that wonderful presentation. A smart home is definitely the way for the future, and the future is now. Smart home is going to become something that will become an everyday thing. So yes. So we're going to quickly move into. Thank you once again for that wonderful, wonderful presentation. So moving quickly to our panelists. Thank you very much for your patience, our panelists. I'm going to be handing over to Mr. John. Mr. John, I hope you're still in the house.
I'm still very much here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. So,
fantastic.
Talking about leveraging technology in today's real estate market. So, Mr. John, over to you. Our panelists have been called out. So, let's see the road. Thank you, sir.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Our time has been fast spent, but I'm glad to know that we still have some of our panelists here. I want to start by saying a very big thank you to Wayne. Wayne, I see your screen is up. I'm sure you may have missed to call our award winner today, Akintola Odesomi, is also supposed to be on this panel. Akintola, if you're here, we're glad to have you. Without much further ado, we all know that every action begins as a thought. Now, unfortunately, a lot of thoughts will die just thoughts because no action will be taken. But today, we have thought leaders in the space who are going to be sharing their thoughts around leveraging technology in the real estate space. And we're hoping that this session will not only be informative, but will be stimulating for progress in the real estate space in Africa. So we will jump right to it. And I would like to direct this question to Sean. What is the role of PropTech in minimizing the cost of resources associated with real estate transactions? And I'd just like to say that these questions would be bounced around us, so everyone can feel free to jump in. Sean, if you're with us, feel free to take the stage.
Thank you, John. Thank you to everyone at Thinkmint and Business Day for arranging this. It's fantastic to be on this platform and speaking to Nigeria, which is a market and a country that really interests me. So thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure.
Yes, in terms of resources in the transaction process, obviously there's a lot of technology that is focused or is said to be focused on cutting out the middleman. So putting buyers and sellers directly in touch. So with things like Airbnb is obviously a big example. Where landlords and potential tenants interact directly through a platform that offers transparency and obviously security of transactions and vetting, etc. So in one way that can obviously play a part. So there are across Africa, there's a number of interesting sales and letting platforms that digitize the transactions process as much as possible. Obviously, with traditional analog deed registries, the whole transaction can't be digitized, but there's some very exciting work being done in mostly West and East Africa regarding blockchain technology with companies like CISO Global. So when blockchain is implemented, this can greatly speed up the process, which in terms of resources, I think time is one of the main issues for developers and investors, because issues in securing title deeds and also in actually changing and swapping over title deeds in the transaction process can really put a hold on things. And then if that tenure and ownership isn't accurate, there's cases where people start building and then a year in somebody rocks up on the site and has a title deed, and actually that site doesn't belong to you. So I think deed registries are something I'm very interested in. There's a lot of projects underway to sort of digitize the registries and also to implement what is called like a land information system. So again, East Africa, some very interesting activity, not so much in Southern Africa. So this is somewhere where, obviously I'm speaking from South Africa, we tend to lag in that sense. So our deed registry, it's fairly efficient, but it could be more efficient, and there are issues that arise. I mean, it's a huge undertaking to digitize the system, but there's massive benefits, and it offers a really exciting platform for a whole range of PropTechs to grow their services, and also new PropTechs to enter the fold. I mean, because just the flow of data and the sort of platform is fascinating, because data is the lifeblood of the industry and transactions, etc. So, in short, I think it's time, resource, and then costs involved in with the people involved can be saved. In terms of cutting out the middleman, agents and brokers will be around, like was said in the previous presentation by the gentleman, which was very interesting. There'll always be a human touch in real estate, and I think that applies to the transaction, although some digital tools may be available. So some people might opt for a fully digital transaction if it's available, but there's very much, I think, be a balance. So that's exciting, but beyond PropTech is deed registries and the work that's been done to digitize those, which I think is interesting. And coupled with that is blockchain, which has had mixed successes globally, but there's obviously a place for it within the transaction process. So yes, that's my view on that topic.
Very interesting opinions on that. I'm wondering if Wayne is here, and Wayne wants to jump in on that particular question. We're still talking about the role of PropTech in minimizing the costs associated with real estate transactions, Wayne.
Sure. So, I mean, I think Sean covered the topic quite comprehensively, but just from our side, I come from a bit of a technical background in the software and property space, and ultimately where we'll see the savings is ultimately digitizing the transaction. So when you digitize the transaction, you can cut out some admin, you can cut out some paperwork, you can cut out some people, and you can also centralize the information. So you can either put it in the cloud, or you can use some sort of blockchain technology that just gives, or ultimately blockchain saves the data across multiple servers, and it just sort of makes the data, let's say, more accessible to the participants. So from our side, not just in digital transactions, PropTech should be making, all of property more efficient in one way or another. If there's no value in adopting the PropTech, then why would you do that? So ultimately, PropTech should be making everything more efficient. And specifically in the transaction space, we see in South Africa, I'm going to talk on South Africa for a moment, with the conveyancing part of a transaction. It takes a lot of time. The deeds office takes a lot of time. And there's lots of opportunities to make the transaction more efficient with technology.
Fantastic. Thank you for your input, Wayne. If Tola is still here, Tola, would you like to speak about the West African market, which we're a part of?
Yes. Like Sean earlier mentioned, and I think he was trying to focus on something else, but even in the transaction phase, customer acquisition phase of PropTech, we are very behind in West Africa. So I will give a very good example. At Split, we're currently fundraising for our seed round. We had a pre-seed earlier. And when we're talking to investors, they are very surprised that we are democratizing rental, for instance, and that a platform has just been introduced 3 years ago, as early as 3 years ago, to democratize that process. And they get very confused when they hear that we pay 1 year or 2 years rental upfront to access living, and then we still have to buy furniture and still have to pay for other services like service charge, cleaning, and all those other things that come naturally to first world countries, right? So I mean, in our own case, it's even solving that basic problem, right? Building the trust creating a platform that builds trust between the supply side, which are the homeowners, the builders, and then the demand side, which is the people that are trying to rent, either for tourism purposes, which is short stay, or for permanent purposes, which is long stay, and democratizing that process in a way that they can actually afford to live in these spaces. Again, from our own end, the way we contribute to reducing the cost is by giving people like real pricing, right? So as you know, the real problem or the real cost in Nigeria is the cost of the land, right? And when people build on the land, they can't build one bedrooms, for instance, which from data that we gather from demand that we get on our platform is what people really need, 1 and 2 bedrooms. But when you get into the market, you see that people are building 3, 4, 5 bedrooms, right? Because we've been able to break that down into rooms and create a sharing platform or shared spaces on our platform, it sort of gives the people that are building this property data to say that, see, most of the people that are willing to rent from you can only afford 1 room, literally. How do we get the price of the land to go down, or the cost of building these structures to go down in a way that it is profitable for the builder to build 1 or 2 bedrooms, right? So the data that we gather on our own end sort of informs companies that we work with on the supply end, especially for the long stay, for our long stay customers, to know what to build, as well as us trying to innovate around it with things like container homes, prefab homes, to bring down that cost along the value chain and get it out to the end customer. I think these are ways that we can sort of like bring down costs, or optimize the cost of rental, of living, of building, and across the whole value chain.
Fantastic. Thank you for that insightful response. I think one thing we all agree on is that technology plays a big role in bringing down the cost in any industry, and of course, specifically in our industry, which is the real estate one. And so I'm going to move quickly to the next question, which is around financial technology and how we can integrate it into the real estate sector for more secure payments, for funding sources, for property purchases, and the rest. I mean, I'd like us to just speak about how we think the fintech industry can enable us as the real estate industry to do better. But before I call on anyone else, just to confirm that we have Mr. Morris on the line. Is he here? Okay. I'm sure if he is, he'll jump in at some point. In the meantime, Mr. Wayne, if you don't mind going first this time, share with us what you think the role of fintech will be, how we can to the real estate sector.
Well, I mean, I'll give you an example. We have a platform in our portfolio called Instant Property, where we have an online auction facility. And one area where during COVID, we had a lot of traction, a lot of auctioneers and real estate agents needed to either white label an online auction platform, or they needed to be able to list. And one of the financial offerings that we offer on the platform is we work with financing service providers, and as users sign up or they FICA with us to be able to bid, we also offer them different financial services. So ultimately, when you're digitizing, let's say, a transaction, you also centralizing the information, and you're enabling the ability to offer value adds along the way. There's also a lot of different service providers that offer, let's say, financial transaction capabilities. But the most important thing, let me talk directly to the real estate people that are not technically savvy. One of the most important things you need to consider is today we live in what's called an API environment, or an API world. Ultimately, An API is a way to connect two different software systems together. You need to make sure that your central system or your main system or the solutions you are doing are API enabled. What this enables